Hello, everybody. Thanks for being here with us today. We've got well asked for webinar today. We are going to deep dive into the CAMM a little bit, and we're going to talk a lot about the Precision Mobile 7000 series. But before we get started, I would like to just go through a few reminders. And one is that this webinar is being recorded, so please keep that in mind and also stay on mute while speakers are presenting. We want to hear what they say. It's going to be a lot of great information, but if you're comfortable, you can be like Core. I see he's got his camera on. Like always, thank you, Core. So if you want to have your camera on, go right ahead. We would love to see your smiling faces. If you have questions, use the raise hand function or put your questions in the chat. We will be trying to get to as many as possible, but most importantly, have fun. We're here to learn. This is a good time. We've got a great group. So yeah, and don't forget, we do have a survey at the end. We want to hear your feedback on today's webinar. We want to know what you're looking for in the future. So please fill that out, and 4 lucky participants will win a $25 Amazon gift card. So that's always exciting, a little incentive. You might be one of the lucky 4. And then in case you missed it, we did have the Dell Community Solutions Summit last month. The platform is still available, so you can still go into it for another 5 days. There's a lot of great content in there. So if you're interested in hearing everything there, go right ahead. We will do our best to get as many of these sessions up on our site as well, so you can access them after these 5 days are completed. But if you want to get an early jump on it or want to go back and see some more, please head on over. It's the same link. Everything's there. You can get in there and see a lot of great content from that day. Without further ado, I'd love to introduce Tom and Alex. Tom is a senior distinguished engineer responsible for the overall architecture of all notebooks and desktops at Dell. So he's got a lot of great information, and we're really lucky to have him today. And then Alex, as you know, he's done a couple with us before. He is a product management consultant on Precision workstations and rugged notebooks. So once again, we've got a lot of knowledge here from the inside of Dell. So ask your questions, be ready to receive a lot of information. And without further ado, Alex, you're up.
Right, fantastic. Thanks so much, Jack. And I do, while I'm going to start sharing my slides, I do want to mention in terms of this housekeeping items, we do have another team member from Precision Workstations on the call today with us, Mano Jalusis, who many of you already know. He used to be a long time manager for high-end mobile workstations, so something we're going to be talking about today. And he has recently moved to a new role within Dell, but he hasn't gone too far, right? So in this kind of, it was a natural progression for him moving from a product manager to a planner of future generation products, right? So he's here on the call as well. He's here to help in case you have any historical questions or in case you have any sort of ideas for next generation products as well. He will not, I guess, be actively presenting today, but he's happy to join us on the chat, and he's happy to go on microphone as well if necessary, right? I'm going to start sharing couple things that I do want to do today, and we are always very happy to go and kind of be on these forums and present and talk about some of the technology and a few of the things that we are really focused on. I do want to make sure that you are seeing. Can you please confirm if that you're seeing my slides?
Yes. Yeah, we see them.
It's looking good. Okay, perfect. That's great. So I'm going to kick off, if that's all right with you. I'm going to kick off with a quick video. It's about 90 seconds and kind of lays groundwork for some of the reasons why we have workstations in the market today and the path that we sort of traveled over the last 25 years. So here we go. Let's see. All right, perfect.
Hello everyone, I'm Jeff Clark, Vice Chairman and Co-Chief Operating Officer of Dell Technologies. I'm proud to say I started the workstation business 25 years ago. And it's been amazing watching Precision grow and mature into the unquestioned market leader and innovation leader in this space. I'm so proud of what we've done here. Thank you all.
On behalf of the Global Dell Technologies team, thank you to our customers, our partners, and our team members for making Dell Precision a huge success. We are grateful for your support over the last 25 years, and we're looking forward to an exciting future together.
All right, that's one thing that Jack did not mention is Michael was going to join us today for this presentation as well, right? But anyway, of course, you know, it's I hope that you noticed one of the kind of main themes of this video, in addition to just kind of recapping this, you know, last 25 years over a span of 25 seconds, right? It was really about, well, you needed this, and this is how we responded. You needed this, and this is how we responded. Right. So today, as we're going to be talking about, among other things, about CAMM memory, right? We are there is a reason why we are developing this new approach to memory, a new technology, but really just on a very high level, Dell mobile workstations, so Precision brand of notebooks and desktops, we are here to make sure we respond to some in the market. So things are moving forward, right? Things are changing, and we are pretty happy to sort of be, you know, be a part of this whole movement of how the workforce has really progressed, and especially, you know, in the last 2 years, so many things changed. As you know, so much shift really in the way things are being worked on, in the way the work from home is happening, in the remote work is happening, in the way travel is happening, right? And so it is important. I guess it's important for me to let you know that we recognize some of those trends and some of those shifts, right? That's why we're very closely monitoring what's happening and some of the needs there. So really, why would somebody choose a Precision workstation? And, you know, I'm going to be focused mostly on the high-end mobile workstations today, but we have multiple models, right? And of course, there are three things we are trying to look at when we go into designing a generation of mobile workstations or workstations in general, right? And those have to do with anything that has to do with performance, with reliability, and then with the user experience, right? Being able to elevate your work and help you become faster, better, stronger, right? More efficient than really something that you would achieve on older generation platforms. And so there is, when we talk about ROI, like return on investment, why would somebody go with a workstation over just a basic PC, right? Those are the things that are very important. And when you work with heavy workloads, you work with something that requires sort of mission critical, you know, application software, things like that. It's very important that you get the best, the highest, and you get the best support. You get the best engineering, right? You get the best thermals, you get the best performance, you get the latest graphics, get you through your workday. So we do recognize that, and we hope that you see that as well. We'll be happy to hear your feedback too. You know, if you want to, I know that I was here in this forum just a few months ago. I want to say back in August, talking somewhat about, you know, about mobile workstations, just a kind of quick pitch about the high end and a little teaser of this new CAMM memory module. And I left my email in the chat, and I'm happy to share it again. It's Alex_Tilton, which is, you know, my name that you can see here in the chat at Dell.com. I always welcome your comments, your, I guess, concerns in some cases, right? Just some, you know, opinion sharing. I know about a dozen or so of you actually reached out to me after that, and I was pretty happy. And especially one of the items of feedback that I heard that kind of make me smile a little bit is somebody reached out and said, hey, you know what, I don't even have a question per se. I'm just glad that we have this, you know, connection, and that companies such as Dell make kind of access for Dell users so accessible to product managers, to what goes behind the scenes in terms of developing. Yes, thank you, Kirsten. So if I get, you know, a whole bunch of emails today, you know, please, okay, of course, keep it polite and civil, right? But other than that, you know, it's always good to hear from you. And again, when we talk about mobile workstations, right? So I joined the Dell's specialty group, which is the group that produces these mobile workstations, about 3-4 years ago. Mana, keep me honest, right? I know you've been around much longer than I have in this specific group at Dell. Back then, we had 5 products, and we were just about to add a 6th. Oh, hold on, this is getting out of hand here really quickly. Right? So we had about 5 products at the time, and then we were about to launch the 6th model, right? We were going to grow. And then a year passed, or 2 years, and then we added the 7th model. And then another year passed, and we had an 8th model, right? So as you will see today, we actually have, so the second digit on this slide actually represents the screen size, right? So if you see a 4 or a 5, that's a 14, 15-inch screen size respectively. So today we've grown to 8 different distinct models in the workstation space, because we recognize that there's really not a one-size-fits-all. Literally, right, for mobile workstations, but also figuratively. We understand that different users have different demands, require different applications, require different battery runtime, or performance, or graphic performance, or price point, right? So we recognize those issues. That's why if you're looking for just something very basic, like an entry into mobile workstation space, and you're not as concerned about the weight of the device or about the thinness and lightness and, you know, getting the highest end of graphic card, you just need some kind of basic entry workstation user productivity for some entry-level scalability, entry-level performance. And again, when I say entry, this is, you know, far exceeding the typical commercial PC, right? But still kind of keeping it sort of civil. We have product for that. But if you're looking for more executive presence, thin and light platform, you know, Precision 5000 series would be that. And if you're looking, of course, for kind of higher end, you know, VR, AR type experiences, you are somebody who's a creator, or you are going to be doing some data science, you're going to be using some heavy applications, we have our high-end workstations for that, right? So, but another thing that they do want to call out that's very important to recognize here is that the offering of Dell is not limited by just these models, right? So Precision is just one of the sub brands. Of course, it's been around for 25 years. It has a lot of, I guess, following, a lot of people across the globe using these devices, but that's not the end of it. So we have our commercial core notebook brand called Latitude, which we sell in big numbers every year. But if you're looking for something like, you know, a creator type device, you know, Precision 5000 series might be a good fit, but also there's an XPS, which is another thin and light, this kind of executive type product, right? If you're looking for a gaming box, there is Alienware that's also, you know, manufactured by Dell. And we are very happy, recognizing that sometimes not every single need might be met by the Precision device. And this is done intentionally. So again, going back to the statement that there is no one size that fits everything. In some cases, the fixed workstation, like a desktop, a tower, might actually be a better fit for some of your needs in terms of productivity. So recognize that. That's why we have so many different models, so many different applications, and that's why we don't end just here on this slide, right? And so, of course, this is this is something that we're happy with. However, there is something that's unique about Precision 7000 series this generation, something that I do want to call out. And by the way, I'm talking here in the kind of a very high level, but if you are looking for more like specs, specifically how each of these platforms is different, what types of CPUs we offer, what type of storage, you know, how high we get with the storage in terms of memory, chassis size, all of these platforms today, they're currently shipping, right? So this is, you know, nothing here is hidden. There is no surprises. This is not an NDA slide or anything like this. If you want to grab a screen, feel free to do that. If you don't want to grab a screen, but you would rather just, you know, get this slide, I can send you a link as well if you reach out to me, right? And so this is, you know, again, if you're more into specs, if you are more here about understanding the positioning, also learn about this new CAMM memory, we're going to get to that. One thing I do want to call out when we talk about this new generation of Precision products. So first of all, you'll recognize that, you know, the second digit is a 6, which means it's a 16-inch screen size, which is very, very new for mobile workstations. So as you know, for many years, we had just the 2 screen sizes. For some of you who have been using Precision for some time, or you have been hearing about Precision for some time, right? The 15 and 17-inch were sort of those 2 distinct markets that were very popular, and it was something that Dell offered and something that our direct competitors in the workstation space also offered, right? Those screen sizes. And then we heard customers saying, in many instances, looking at the 15-inch screen size and saying, well, it's great, but since, the world has gone remote and we're trying to get them a little bit more portable, I wish there was a 14-inch option. And lo and behold, we recognized it as a need, and now we have actually not one but two 14-inch devices, right? And then we heard another set of customers saying, another set of users saying, well, 15-inch is great, but actually a little bit more real estate, right? I want a 16:10 aspect ratio screen, and I want a 16-inch, a little bit bigger than what I have today, because the work demands have shifted as well, and we recognize that too. And so, of course, we still have several 15-inch products, but this marks basically the first 16-inch product, first deviation from the 15-inch space in the succession of this Dell high-end mobile workstation products, right? So it's kind of new. And so if you've seen the 15-inch in the past, this is new to us, right? It's kind of new to the market as well, in this space. And of course, there are many users today who already use a 16-inch product from a variety of competitor devices, but this is what we try to do. It's not just about increasing the size of the screen, right? It's about taking additional look, as we always do, on the next generation of products and trying to understand what else are our users looking for, right? So, for example, it may not be meaningful to many of you. However, the idea to get a little thinner, a little lighter, is actually a big part of the feedback that we hear. Therefore, if you look at this comparison here, right, and you look, for example, at the Z height, which is your, well, Z dimension, right, which is the height, you can see that even though the system has gone a little bit bigger in terms of the screen size, we're actually able to do it by significantly still reducing the height of the system, right? Because if it has to fit in the backpack for you to travel, or even on the confined space of maybe you're using it at your kitchen table or your home office or just whatever you might be on the road, thinner and lighter usually is perceived as a benefit, right? So trying to engineer this out to a point where even though the screen has grown, you actually have thinner bezels, which translates into higher screen to body ratio. Like you don't have as much space that goes sort of wasted. Like look at that bezel at the bottom of the device, right? Where the Dell logo is positioned, how much thinner it is. Of course, it has, there's a lot of sort of antenna routing that goes through there and things like that. But just generally being able to engineer it, you will look at this, for example, at the keyboard and the clickpad specifically. So we're going away from a touchpad with buttons to a clickpad, and this is more consistent with what other Precision products have done over the years. So on the Precision 5000 series and Precision 3000 series, we've gone to this clickpad approach over the last 2 years. We've heard a lot of great feedback. I personally love this enlarged size of the clickpad. I find it very easy to work with. Right, and of course, I know that it takes time to sort of get used to it if you're moving from something with buttons, or in the past we used to have a dual pointing keyboard with a little tiny kind of a trackpad thingy, and so it does take sort of learning, but we are progressing. The industry is progressing. We're seeing more and more of it, even showing up in other kind of devices and even other lobs within Dell. So we're pretty happy with a lot of the engineering, but this is just kind of a front of screen experience. This is how I like to look at it. You're going to open the device, and you're going to interact with it. And if you look at the chat, for example, we're getting some feedback from, so Robert, right? Thank you so much for good feedback on this OLED panel. Yes, it's just one of the options, right? We have multiple options here, and really you get more viewable area, but things to look for in these new designs is reduction of height, reduction of just generally different design for hinges. So now the screen can open 180 degrees, right, if you need it, and not many people actually use it that way, obviously, but it does open that way. So increasing screen to body ratio, more pixels, because it's it's a different aspect ratio from 16:9 to 16:10. Now we have this OLED display option, better performance, obviously, with this HX CPUs. So those are all important things. And right, we can talk about specific specs. But now, the point of this webinar is really talk about the changes to the 7000 series, and of course, talk about CAMM. Now, CAMM is a very interesting topic, and Tom is going to go on camera in just a minute. And I'm going to, the way we would like to do it is kind of an interview style, where I'm going to ask him some questions, right? And he's going to share some of his feedback about CAMM. But really, just keep in mind to frame this discussion. So Precision 7000 series is our highest performing models, right? So when we include CAMM memory in these machines, we are trying to send a statement. We are so confident in CAMM as a technology, right, and its performance and its longevity, that we are willing to put it into our high-end machines, right? We didn't just find some, obscure Dell model that nobody ever buys and just put CAMM there just to say, okay, we have something new that nobody else has. We are doing it in these most highest performing machines because there's been a lot of work done behind the scenes to sort of innovate in this space to put this CAMM memory module approach on the roadmap and get it to a final product, right? So we're very confident that this is the way of the future. However, if you have your reservations with CAMM, totally fine, which is totally fine. And so what we can do on these machines, you can actually choose either you do CAMM memory or you do conventional SODIMM. So we have an interposer, we have SODIMM connectors. So at point of sale, when you select your device, whether you order through Dell.com or your organization perhaps has a Dell account executive who can help you, or a salesperson who can help you place that order, it's really up to you. However, we are very confident that this is what we wanted to do going forward. And now we're going to talk about reasons why. So Tom, if you don't mind, going on the camera really quickly, and I would like to. All right, perfect. Thank you.
I'm here with you.
What I'm going to do is, yeah, excellent. I'm going to stop sharing my slides for now, and I would like to, and thank you so much for being with us. So, friends, Tom is the sort of brains behind CAMM, right? So he's not just one of the Dell engineers; he's the Dell engineer responsible for CAMM development. And I know that he had another colleague with whom they sort of, went ahead to design this. Tom, really, so the first question I want to ask you is, so let's talk about CAMM. Is this an evolution or is this a revolution? What is the problem with SODIMM that you're trying to solve?
Well, CAMM is really both. It's a complicated story. It's revolutionary in that completely changing the connector interface from a card edge style connection that we've been using for 25 years to a compression connector. And inserting that connector in a memory bus, which most people understand that the memory bus is a very sensitive bus. It's signal integrity, it's crosstalk, it's a lot of signals through it. And so it's not for the faint-hearted, right? It takes a lot of collaboration with Intel and AMD in order to redesign this memory bus. And so it's revolutionary in that sense, that we're redefining how we scale memory today and in the future for DDR6. Okay, so think of a SODIMM design today. If you think of a typical motherboard, you have an SoC and you have a SODIMM connector, and the memory bus actually has to go from the SoC, and the signals have to travel over to the connector, and then they actually have to come back to the DRAM. So you're kind of, making a loop back electrically to communicate with each DRAM. And that's just not efficient, but it has been good enough for memory to this point, because the bus speeds have been slow enough that the length of the channel didn't matter. Okay, so CAMM is revolutionary in the sense that it's shortening that channel. It's from the CPU, you route through the motherboard a very short distance and you pop up to this CAMM connector, and as far as the motherboard is concerned, you're finished. And so you have a much straighter connection, then you go out to the module. So it's a straight connection. So it's revolutionary in that we're changing the topology But it's a lot the same when you look at the components that we use. It's the same DRAM. It's the same voltage regulators that you use on DDR5 today. And so you'll see, a lot of the same electrical design on the module itself. So we've taken the good of SODIMM and UDIMM, all of them kind of have the same memory architecture. We've kept that. We've changed out the interface to something that can scale. And so it's a little bit of both. It's pretty exciting to see that now what we saw as a glass ceiling for SODIMM, at probably around 6,400 megatransfers per second. Now we've lifted that glass ceiling, much higher. We expect it to go to the end of DDR6, which is instead of, where we're at today at 4,800, 17,000, right? So 3 times faster or more.
Oh wow, that is very impressive. Right. So obviously this is a big jump. I know over the last few generations, we're typically seeing, what is it, about like 0.4, 0.6 gigahertz in terms of speed improvement. So
right.
Jumping that by like we're talking
about.
Well,
that's for the full roadmap, right? Over the next several years.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Fundamentally changing the physics that we have to deal with.
Okay. So, and then in terms of performance, really kind of revisiting that again, how do we expect that to play out, right? So today, compared to SODIMM as it is today, do we see any performance difference? And of course, you sort of alluded to some even greater differences going forward. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so you have to think of this in 3 parts. You have to think of it as the SoC, the CPU on one end, and the speed that SoC can achieve. You have to think of the channel, which is what we're fixing with CAMM, and then you have to think of the DRAM. So it takes all 3 of these components to set the bus speed in your system. And so today, what we're shipping with CAMM is at 4,800, and it's constrained by the DRAM, right? So we fixed the channel in the middle. And we know that the SoC can go faster, and we know that the DRAM can go faster. We've done engineering tests that show, today in the engineering lab, we can run at 6,400. It's not something we're shipping today because of the DRAM, but we know it will go faster. So the performance headroom is there, and that's when we looked at SODIMM DDR5 when it first came out. We're like, okay, small improvement over DDR4. I kind of understand the changes, but at the end of the day, it's kind of more the same. Same form factor, more or less the same connector with some small changes. It's an incremental change, and if you compare a SODIMM bus speed to memory down, for example, you can see memory down. Those bus speeds are moving forward faster, and the SODIMM was held back. It's constrained because of this channel complexity that we have. And it's not just a Dell problem, it's an industry problem. It's something that Intel and AMD, as well as the OEMs, are all working with. And it's just constrained. And so we had to unblock that. And that fundamentally is the invention of CAMM. Clean sheet of paper, completely different way of connecting DRAM to the SoC.
Perfect. Thank you. Before I ask my next question, I do want to pose, a question to the audience here today. A while ago, we released a CAMM white paper, kind of describing some of the disadvantages that Tom is speaking to. And I know that after our previous webinar, we were able to distribute that white paper. And I know that, so Jack, who is moderating us today, right? I know that you sent it out. But, by show of hands, how many of you had a chance to look at the white paper? And I guess how many of you haven't? I'm trying to understand whether it's worth maybe posting it in the chat right now, or maybe we can just do it, post it as something as a kind of after the meeting is over, we can, once the recording gets sent or whatever, the link gets sent, we can include the white paper as well. So if you don't mind, just kind of indicate in the chat so we can have a good idea. But I mean, we already have one person that says they have not. So I think in any case, it's probably worth posting it. So let us figure out how to do that. All right, Tom, another question that I do have. And I know that as you answer this question, you're going to be a little bit limited to what you can actually say, right? But in terms of standardizing this new memory, I guess, standard module, right? I know that you've been around for some time, right? And you have multiple patents to your name. You have been working with JEDEC as well. What can you tell us, something that you are, I guess, allowed to disclose in terms of how the standardization is happening and who you're working with to get it adopted by a wider market?
Sure. Yeah, I am constrained under JEDEC rules, but I can tell you this much. So when CAMM was leaked out originally in April, there was some, news articles that came out and, questioning, what is Dell doing here? Custom memory, what are we doing to our customers? And we quickly replied and responded to that. And now we're following through with what we said we would do. We went to JEDEC in June and asked for a task group specifically for CAMM. They approved that and they asked me to chair it. So I'm the inventor of CAMM and now I'm chairing the JEDEC committee to standardize CAMM. And that's progressing well. It's been, a few months now. The first few months have been educational because you have to think about the type of company that would participate in an industry standard like this. Of course, all the OEMs and the SoC suppliers would be there, but there's connector suppliers, there's memory suppliers, so there's about 20 companies that are involved in this specific task group, about 40 people total involved in this. And so those 40 people, need to understand CAMM in detail. And of course, you have to be a JEDEC member to have access to this because it is provided under confidentiality. And so, the first few months were educational to get into the details of CAMM and, why it works, why it's better, and the headroom that we've described. So we have alignment pretty much with this group. And, every now and then we have what we call consensus votes, which means, does this group of people across the industry agree and are they aligned with what we're doing? And so the answer is yes. We have alignment. They see the benefits and we're moving forward. I can't tell you, when we're done because frankly, you got 40 cooks in the kitchen, right? And so it's not, under complete control here. You're dealing with a lot of people, but there is general alignment pretty much intact with the Dell IP, the patents that we created, pretty much aligned with all of that. So it's moving well. And there's definitely motivation, particularly with the OEMs, because the other way to look at this is memory modules in the past have always been defined by memory suppliers, right? And they've done a good job. So SODIMM, UDIMM, RDIMM are all defined by the memory supplier. So CAMM is the first time that an OEM has stepped up and said, okay, time out, we need something different here because what you're doing, won't meet the need of our systems in the future. And so it's the first time, a little bit different, but we have good alignment. We're moving forward. We have, memory suppliers, aligned, they see the benefits. And so it's, there's nothing but good news here.
Yeah.
We have, this little connector, which I can try to get into my camera. So you can see this is if you haven't seen one, this is the actual connector. It's, we say compression, these are compression contacts. And one of the things that we did here is make a very economical, but very robust connector. So I can rub my fingers across the top of this. I'm not bending pins. The pins simply compress into the housing. And so, there's, an array of pins here. So it's not 2 rows like a typical card edge connector. You can see that there's many rows across that connector. So it's quite different interface, but we've used connectors like this for a long time. And they're quite reliable and much higher bus speed.
Perfect. Thank you. So before I ask, I keep kind of going back to the chat and commenting a couple of things, and I would like to do it right now as well before I get to my next question. So first of all, team, I only have about 2 questions left more for Tom. And so to make sure that we get kind of the best out of him, if you have any specific questions, something that you have not had answered yet, right? Or, maybe you read the white paper, you haven't really, you want to kind of drill a little deeper, right now is the time to ask. There's no guarantee we'll get to the question specifically and be able to answer it right now. But if you looking for a deeper discussion, I'm sure we can accommodate that as well. I do want to call out something, right? So that's one of the misunderstandings, I guess, that we're hearing is Dell is not intending, even though this was developed by Dell, right? It's a Dell patent on it. We don't intend to be the manufacturer here. So it's in our interest, right, to make sure that it gets wide adoption, because we see this as kind of the tide that lifts all boats. So it's not just Dell boats, but all boats together, right? So that's very important to understand. Yeah. Tom just showed in the chat, in the window in his camera, he showed that compression connector. I do want to post, if that's okay with everybody. I'm going to post links. So this is a review that was done on.
Alex, just so you know, you might have frozen there for a moment. But I think Alex just posted a video to a review of what you were just showing.
That's right. That's right. So we've done several different engagements with reporters now. So there's some YouTube videos, there's some news articles. You can Google Dell and the word CAMM, C-A-M-M, and you'll find all that content. There's quite a few out there now. And while we're waiting for Alex, I can just kind of fill the time, because I've had other questions about CAMM. It's not just for Precision. I mean, Precision is my baby too. I came from the Precision engineering team, and I've broadened since then. But CAMM will be used from the bottom end, from Inspiron, the consumer notebooks, all the way to the top end. We're starting at the top because the top is where we need more performance and higher reliability, but it will expand and propagate all the way down to every product that uses SODIMM today, including all-in-ones and some of the small desktops. So eventually SODIMM retires. There is no SODIMM plan for DDR6 in the future. Okay, there's no plan for it. And so DDR6, now we're talking, several years down the road from here, but at that point, there's only CAMM. And so if there's questions about, is this a point solution for one Precision notebook? No, this is very broad. It's, it's going to scale across everything. And that's why it needs to be a JEDEC standard as well. Okay, and another question I get about Dell custom memory modules. Dell is a PC company. We believe in the ecosystem of PC market, where a lot of companies come together and integrate their technology into a PC. So we believe strongly in maintaining the memory ecosystem. The memory suppliers provide memory modules. You will be able to buy CAMMs at your local Fry's store someday. It will become a standard and widely available from your normal distribution stores. All right, so that's some questions.
Yeah, thanks, Tom, for helping me out. I did drop for a second. I'm so sorry for that. And I heard you. I caught the tail end of your discussion about, I guess, what other form factors might be candidates for CAMM? Was that sort of the question that you were discussing? Well,
that's another question. And so there will be a variety of form factors, just like in SODIMM and UDIMM, where you have different capacity points and sometimes different sizes. But you think CAMM more like a M.2 storage card, where you have a standard that scales. You know, you have different sizes within the standard. So in the standard today, we've defined 6 form factors for CAMM modules that cover different capacity points.
Okay. Can we talk really quickly, or not as quickly? I mean, because this is, I think, is another area of advantage that sort of gets overlooked sometimes, because I know many times I talk about CAMM and people tend to jump right into specs, the speed at which it runs. But what are implications to serviceability? If you're an IT or you're a technician managing a fleet of devices, how will your life get easier with CAMM devices over a conventional SODIMM?
Well, that's huge. Our service group, you know, really likes CAMM very much. If you think of, not in the current products, if you think back at other prior workstation notebooks that required 4 SODIMMs, in order to get to those 4 SODIMMs, 2 were at the bottom and 2 were on top, which means to get to those top ones, you had to take the keyboard out and the lattice and without breaking anything. And then you could get to the memory and replace it. Okay, and so from a service standpoint, if someone called tech support and they determined that it was a memory interface problem, tech support would say, well, reseat all of your DIMMs. Okay, well, reseating all of your DIMMs means you take off the bottom cover, you take off the keyboard, and just so that you can reseat those modules. It's a lot of work, and the risk of breaking something is pretty high. And that's been a problem for quite some time. And so this actually solves that. That's been one that we've been after for a while. So now CAMM is one module. It's on one side of the motherboard with the CPU. So, you know, with our notebooks, CPU facing down, so you take off the bottom cover and you have immediate access to all of the memory right there. And so from a service standpoint, it's much easier to replace. From a reliability standpoint, if you think you have a memory-related system problem, you can actually take out the CAMM connector and inspect it. You can look at it, you can look for crushed pins or damage of some sort, or some kind of, you know, debris in there. And so it's much easier to inspect because it's not soldered down to the motherboard. Okay, so it's compressed on the motherboard side, you put your memory module on top, that compresses all together down. So all of that comes apart where you can, a technician can visually inspect that.
Excellent. Yes. Again, you know, when we're talking about maintaining a fleet of one, I mean, it's all right. It helps a little, right? When you talk about maintaining a fleet of anything more than 1 unit, and when you get into tens or hundreds, that is a big time saver, right? And then in terms of kind of avoiding lost productivity. Another thing that I do want to clarify here for everybody on the call, right? So CAMM, it's so you can choose either a SODIMM path or you can choose a CAMM path today with the Precision high-end workstations, and both are upgradable, right? So that's sort of a misconception we hear occasionally, is that, well, SODIMM upgrade is easy. All I need to do is just get another memory DIMM, drop it in the box, or get the, you know, the low capacity and put in the high capacity, and here we go. And CAMM is also upgradable, right? So if you look at that, and I know that last time I tried to put the link to the YouTube video in the chat, you know, the whole meeting kicked me out for some reason, right? So I hope it doesn't happen again. But if you, I start talking about that video, but if you look at the PC World review, and that's just one of several, I guess, reviews that were posted, but this is the one that I just recently stumbled upon. It looks like it was released like on a Saturday or something like this, right? So if you look at that, it actually shows you in kind of much greater detail, up close, what that memory module looks like, how to remove it, and how easy it really is to position it. But also, if you need to upgrade, go to all the way to, you know, we go from CAMM capacities today are 16, 32, 64, and 128, right? So, and it doesn't require a different chassis size, right? You know, any of the chassis that support CAMM today, they will support any of these 4 capacities. So upgrading from something like 16 or 32 all the way to 64 128 will be pretty easy as well, right? It's fairly easy, and including considering all the benefits, I think it's a great deal and great proposition here. All right, well, I know we're coming up on time here, and do want to make sure that if you had a question, anybody here in the chat today, and it looks like we have, Tom, we have over 150 participants today on this call, which is great, right? I'm very happy that we can spread the message here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to repost the message that Jack posted, 30 or so, 20 or so minutes ago, where to go and get that memory white paper. Right, I do encourage everybody to bookmark that page, or at least like go and access it. Don't read the paper just yet, right? Let us finish this. We don't want you to kind of be multitasking right now, but we do appreciate your time. I want to make sure that we have a chance to answer any additional questions. So I don't know, Jack, if we want to open it for kind of a Q&A for a minute here, and just see if there are any additional questions, and then we can wrap up.
Absolutely. It looks like, Robert has a comment about the Precision. He said, he's got users using the 7560s, and the thermal control on the model is better than the new one, the 7670. Will there be further improvements on the thermals in the new ones?
Thank you, Robert, for tough question. This,
we
obviously, when we go live with these sessions, we know that not every question will be, an easy one, right? So,
yeah.
thank you
I can answer that, because
yes, thank you.
Part of Precision for 7 years. I can tell you that we're always updating and reviewing these units, and so there could be, firmware updates, BIOS updates that continue to refine it and improve it. I think that's historically been shown, and we'll continue doing that in the interest of improving that product.
Yeah, I do want to add that we're trying to make sure we find kind of the right balance between the size of the device, the performance of the device, including all the specs, right? And so of course, if something like this comes up, we definitely want to know more, right? So if you can maybe separately reach out, Robert, and kind of share some of the configurations you're using, some of the workloads, that will help us a lot. But again, and just a call out to everybody, make sure that you, first of all, you have, kind of latest drivers, latest BIOS. Those things always help, right? But also don't shy away from using things like Dell Power Manager, or any, I guess, power management things with your device, whether it be a Windows utility or a Dell utility, right? Because it also helps sort of to make sure that the right power profile, for the lack of better word, power profile is applied to whatever workload you're using, right? So I think it's always helpful to consider those things as well, right? Because very frequently, actually more often than not, when I say, well, update the BIOS, make sure that this, this and this and that is, this kind of settings profiles are set up, I never hear back, right? Because it seems to magically solve the problem, right? And so, of course, there is a reason why we have so many devices, but even within the same device, there's going to be different type of users, different type of user profiles. We recognize that, so we definitely want to make sure we address that.
Yeah, and we're constantly learning from those user profiles and how they configure it, what they're doing. So it's helpful for us to see, and discover some of those corner cases, and then we fix those. So, as we mature the product, and all that's done in BIOS and firmware.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you, Jack, for posting once again, posting my email in the chat. Yeah, I do hope to get some feedback from you. For example, Jeffrey seems to have another, he has a good suggestion about, potentially applying additional logic to the fan rotations, right? So if you don't mind, Jeffrey, emailing me, and perhaps I can discuss it a little bit further with the BIOS team, and just to see if there's something we can implement fairly easy, right? And then team, of course, because historically, I'm not going to comment about our future roadmap. I'll just say that historically, we have released the new generation of mobile workstations, let's say every 12 to 18 months, right? Historically, right? And because we've been around for so long, we hope that that sort of history continues to apply in the future as well. And even if there is anything that can be potentially added to the roadmap, even if it may not be addressed today, this is definitely going to go under consideration. We're happy to have Mano with us today, who hears this feedback too. Maybe this is something we can kind of consider doing on any hypothetical future products. Again, without leaving any sort of comment on the future roadmaps from Dell, without any promises, but kind of relying on that historical update, right? And then question from Lou: any of the Precision line offer touchscreen? Lou, if I'm not mistaken, every single Precision device today has an optional touch, right? So you can get a non-touch and you can get a touch option as well.
Except for the 17-inch.
Except for the 17-inch. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
I did see a question earlier about which dock would be best for the 7670s, and are there any docking stations that would support 3 4K monitors?
So it looks like that question was sort of answered, right? But Manu, can you comment on that?
Yeah, the best docking station for the 7000 series would be the WD-19DC, and the reason for that is it has enough power coming through the 2 Type-C cables to eliminate the need for another power adapter plugged into the system. You can plug in a power adapter into the side of the system and use a different dock, like the WD-22TB, the Thunderbolt one. But if you want to eliminate all the extra cables, the cleanest would be using the WD-19DC. And you should be able to push multiple 4K displays with our new docks.
That's right. So it does support 3 of the 4K displays.
How long before a TB4 pushes enough power?
Well, there's another kind of unrelated to what we've been talking about, but there is another standard in development to increase the amount of power delivery through a Type-C USB port.
Yeah, that is a wait and see.
That's coming, but it's an industry standard. It takes a lot of time to work out all the details of how to do that.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Mano. And then Patty, you have a question. So we sort of touched briefly upon it a little bit, a couple of minutes ago. Some of the ways to sort of manage that thermal /fan /everything else, right? But if you don't mind, again, emailing me and maybe share a little bit more about this in terms of configuration, kind of applications that you're using and things like that. That will help us to kind of narrow down what what can be done here. Would like to hear more. That's okay. All right, and then Scott, thank you so much for posting this, because we seem to have quite a few questions about connecting high-end mobile workstations to external monitors and then supporting multi-monitor setups as well. So Scott is providing a link. Jack, if you don't mind including that link that Scott provided in any sort of either recap, or if you're going to have a recording link sent out, if you can include that in communication as well, would be great to make sure, because we do have a lot of these assets that already talk about setups and specifications and power setting setups, right? And configuring those and the monitor setup. We already have those answered. So I just want to make sure that it gets a little bit more visibility. Not everybody knows where to go and get them, but we usually like to post those. And usually the best way, the fastest way by far to find any of sort of this technical documentation is just type Precision, something like Precision 7670 documentation, right? So instead of going to support website, selecting model, drop down, just skip all that. Go to documentation, or drivers and downloads is another good Google source to do that for Dell specific model, and it will take you right to that page where you can see all the certificates of compliance, statement of volatility, any setup guides, any regulatory that you want to know, but also any like technical specifications like setup guide, service manual, things like that. It's also always available. Want to make sure that you know where to find it. All right. And so if that's all right with you, Jack, I would like to, wrap things up on our end. I thank you all so much for staying with us for the whole hour, learning about CAMM, learning about recapping the new generation of high-end workstations. We're very happy to have been invited. We hope that we can see you again. We have more exciting news to share. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Mano. You are all fantastic. Keep an eye out. We'll drop the survey link here in the chat in a moment, but we will also email you. We'll include that white paper. And then Alex, I'll make sure when we post the recording up on the Dell Client Community website, we use that link that was just shared. So all of that will be included in the recording, and some of it will be added in the post-event email. So you guys will see a lot of communications from us, and you'll be able to come back here and watch this. So Tom, Alex, Manu, thank you again. This was awesome. A lot of people got a lot of good information. So really appreciate you spending your time with us today.